Pleased to say the Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornberry joins us once again in the studio. Very good morning to
you.
Can we start with that, just the inflation figures out today? When Jeremy Hunt says, you know, his priority is bringing down inflation, my mind suggests a link between what is happening today and, of course, the strike action. The request from various parts of the public sector for significant increases to their pay. I think it makes it less likely that the Chancellor will be able to provide them with money. What is your view?
Well, I think my view is that this is welcome, that the inflation rate is going down, but it's still the second worst month that we've seen for 40 years. You know, inflation of over 10% means obviously that people's wages are being eaten into, and as we've heard, you know, food prices are much higher than that. So what needs to happen is that we need to have proper negotiations. So I know I was on your programme a month ago, I think, you know, when there was the dispute happening in relation to just the railways at that point. And I said my concern was that the government could be tempted to play games with this and could be tempted to try and play it to their political advantage instead of actually looking for a solution.
Sure.
And what they should be doing is bringing people round a table.
Yeah, but Labour would no more agree to what the RMT or indeed the Royal College of Nurses are asking than the Conservatives would. You know that.
We would not be arriving at the last minute if, for example, in the RMT strike, and be talking about driver-only trains. You know, at the last minute when it looked like then maybe there was a solution finally being found. We would not be calling in the RCN and saying to them, "Do talk to us, nurses, but let's not talk about pay." I mean, we would not be doing that. We would be negotiating and we would be trying to find a solution, because a strike is a failure. A strike is a failure on both sides. Both sides need to compromise. And you need people to sit around a table and work out what the compromise is.
Do you detect that the public support for the strikes, which there has generally been, you know, in terms of the public sector and indeed in the railway workers, do you detect that public support is starting to wane slightly?
No, I don't. I think that people see that there needs to be a solution, and I think people are greatly inconvenienced, and that makes people upset and angry and disappointed that they're not able to do what they hope.
No, but
I think that there seems to be, you know, support, and let's not forget, we're not just talking about the public sector. I mean, there are many strikes in the private sector.
Of course,
too.
of course.
I mean, I was talking to one of the bosses from McVitie's where there was a strike. That was settled. There was hardly any publicity about it, but both the employer and the unions took a pragmatic view and they sorted it out.
But when it comes to the health service, and very specifically the nurses,
yes,
it is less inconvenience and it is more that actual damage may be done. This morning we have, you know, NHS England's cancer director warning that urgent cancer surgery could be cancelled. Now that is surely an outcome that is not just unwanted, it is intolerable.
Of course. And again, listening to what the nurses are saying, they're saying, actually, this is out of date, there were agreements this week. Now, in the end, both the employers and the nurses want the same thing when it comes to cancer patients, emergency cases. They want to make sure that people are looked after. So it is just a question of sorting it out, you know, and nurses will not turn away from somebody who's a cancer patient or an emergency. I mean, nobody believes that a nurse would do that. What they do want is they want to have a decent pay settlement, and they want to have more staff. They want to not be so overstretched. They want to be appreciated.
I wonder what you make, if we can turn our attention to immigration, that which we heard from Rishi Sunak yesterday, a deal apparently being done with Albania. I mean, just as a point of principle, if people are not supposed to be here and they are unsuccessful in an asylum claim, Labour doesn't have a problem with them being sent back to where they came from as quickly as possible, do you?
No. What we think is we should have an immigration system and an asylum system which is fast and fair, you know, and firm. We need to be able to get decisions made about people, and then if they are refused, they are refused and they should be returned. That's always been our policy.
So you support the Albania plan?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can have a blanket, you're from Albania, therefore you're going home, because, you know, we know that we need to look at individual cases, because you can't assume that this woman has not been trafficked. If she says that she has, you need to look at that. So you can't have blanket policies. But what you do need to do is you need to start making some decisions, and that's what they're not doing. And then you hear from the Prime Minister, oh, everything's going to be fine, we're going to double the number of people.
He says he's going to clear the backlog by the end of next year.
Well, yeah, and then you ask what the backlog is, and they're talking about the backlog as just being before June this year.
So you think that's hyperbole?
Well, so, I mean, think about it, right? The backlog is just from June last year, right? The bits before that. So we're going to have from June, and then they're going to take a year to clear it, they say. So let's be generous and say that's true. That would mean by the end of next year, we'll be 18 months behind anyway. Do you see?
I do.
I mean, it's like, all you have to do when they say these things is go, well, that sounds good. How's that going to work? And it falls to pieces.
Can I ask you to pop your lawyer's hat on for a second?
Okay.
Of course, the story that Tamara Cohen has been discussing this morning, the idea that the UK is now helping Ukrainian judges train up for dealing with the war crimes that have been taking place within their borders. I mean, what specifically will they be being taught? I mean, obviously, first and foremost, do you appreciate the plan? But what is it that you think that these judges can gain from this?
Yeah. So I think it's great. I think it's really important, and you know, this initiative has our full support. I've been out to The Hague, and I've been in discussions about this. There's a number of things that can be done. So first of all, there are cases that can be done in terms of absolutely at the grassroots. So if a soldier shoots a civilian for no reason, they should be arrested and they should be tried straight away. And the additional training that's being given to judges in Ukraine is great, because those cases need to absolutely stand up. But then you need to go further up the chain, and you need to look at the generals, and you need to look at those responsible, and you need, in fact, to be able to reach right up to Putin, because Putin is in the end the person who sent them in, and he's the one who has agreed to these bombing campaigns against civilians, and the whole aggression is his responsibility. So it is a question of making sure that the international community comes up with solutions that will work together in order to hold the Russians to account for the appalling things they've been doing in Ukraine.
Emily Thornberry, great to have you in the studio. Thanks very much.